Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing well and welcome back to Kayan Al-Bashar. A little bit of an interesting episode today because we are building not only Nyala or the Sultan's First, we're also building a Roman Triumphal Arch and we are building a Gypsy wagon camp. A little bit of an interesting combination, I would say, because those are usually things that don't really go together. But anyway, with that out of the way, I quickly want to ask you guys a question, or quickly, I'm probably going to spend at least 1 minute on the question. But we are moving into the next phase of Kayan Al-Bashar. This is probably actually the last speed build video on the Mirage Mountains area of Kayan Al-Bashar. But with that, I wanted to basically ask you guys for your opinion on what phase we should do next. So put your opinions down below in the comments. But basically the two phases that we can choose from is the Palace District or rebuilding the Traders District. So I think we all know what Palace District entails. The Traders District, for those who don't know, is basically the city area of Kayan Al-Bashar. So put down your opinions on what we should do first in the comments below. But because I don't want to spend more than 1 minute on this question, we should probably start talking about the actual build for today, because I already said it's an interesting episode. But that basically entails I had no set idea for whatever this area was going to be. The only thing that I did know was no tigers, and also this area needed to be completely just because I needed a quick descent. That's basically the biggest function of this area. I needed to have a quick descent of the path from the Mirage Mountains, or at least from the temple, which is I think actually even the highest point of the Mirage Mountains you can reach, into the Palace District, which is on, I would say, the same elevation as Mashaf Castle. And if you know how the path looks like to Mashaf Castle, yeah, it's a long path to get down, and I needed to do that here in basically, let's say, 1/4 of the entire space I had for the other path going down the Mirage Mountains to Mashaf Castle. So I'm basically just, building random things, so that's where the Roman Triumphal Arch comes in, because I kind of go back to like my comfortable area, so that's why you see like Roman pillars pop up. Well, let's just say whenever I just don't have any idea on what to build, I basically build a forest. I don't know why that's like my first instinct when I have no idea what to build, but the entire thing was literally just like, I have no idea what to build. Then I stare at my screen for at least half a day, and then I just start building. So then I also just start building, not only random things, but I don't really connect the things. So that's why I basically built a, sleeping area for whatever animal I would put in here. Well, you guys know, and I can say afterwards what animal I put in here, but while building even the first things of this habitat, or even where we are at now, I had no idea. Basically, the top contenders were actually the Formosan bear or the Nyala. So, of course, looking back at it now, I can say like, oh yeah, it was the Nyala. But another contender was actually monkeys. So, yeah, the monkeys would have gone the largest habitat that Kayan Al-Bashar right now has. Because, yeah, the Sultan's First is huge. But right now, I should get a little bit more on speed with the video. So, we are building a Gypsy wagon, because I already built one, but I wanted to not only have one wagon, so I built another one, which is kind of similar. It has a little bit the same roof. It just isn't that much of a horseshoe shaped roof, it's only just a round roof. And here I also noticed that, I first thought that these wagons were on scale, so they weren't like overly huge. No, I was completely wrong. The base of the wagon is actually 2 meters high. So yeah, looking, or at least let's say if I was standing next to the wagon, I wouldn't see people's feet. So that already gives you probably an idea of how tall I am, but that's I think the biggest clue I have given to my appearance whatsoever. But yeah, these wagons are, well, they're not that big in aerospace, they are just very tall, or very, yeah, very tall. So that was something interesting to find out, that I did not really think about the height of the actual wagon. I more cared about the actual area of the wagon, so yeah, let's just say if a Planko people stands next to it, they look tiny. Which, well, let's just say Kayan Al-Bashar wasn't really built with them in mind anyway. I mean, Kayan Al-Bashar is barely built with animals in mind, so yeah, the guests are literally just like, oh wait, people should be able to walk around this place. Yeah. Maybe also gives a little bit of a reason why I completely forget that the potting also has to come down sometimes. Which is probably a little bit of the reason why this video exists, because I eventually figured out the pot, actually before we built this wagon, but I do that off screen because, let's just say, figuring out the potting isn't the most exciting thing to see. Actually, I do quite a lot of things off screen for today because, well, that's basically the fun of building, well, not building, but having only one video of Kayan Al-Bashar a week. I can go all out in that video, even though you might get a little bit of a headache from how much the camera moves around. And I have actually tried to keep the camera steady, but let's just say whenever I go in what I call squirrel mode, where I just build and forget that the world exists, I also forget that the camera exists and that these videos are sped up, and that you probably get dizzy if I speed them up even a little bit more. Because, yeah, the camera just goes everywhere. Although that might be also a reason why you guys really like the after video tours or reviews or however you call it. Just so that you kind of get grounded and don't have to throw up after the video. But yeah, the wagon, I should probably talk about that a little bit more. So I actually made the good decision to keep the roof separate from the actual build, so that I could basically recolor the roof without having to select every plank. I forgot to do that for the other wagon, although I did do that later. So yeah, fun times. This one wagon was just full of just discovery, which, I mean, it's kind of suitable for like a gypsy wagon, because I think you would come up with less places that gypsies or Romani have been instead of places that they have been. Well, I probably said that wrong. Let's try that again. Places that they haven't been will probably be a smaller list than places that they have been, because they are all over the world. Makes them kind of the best people to live in Kayan Al-Bashar, because, well, I just like that. So anyway, back to the wagon. So yeah, I think with the wheels was the biggest, just like, oh god, this wagon is way too tall. But I'm not going to change them because I like them and it's a little bit, I would say, interesting. Yeah, that's just the word that I use for everything, where it's like it goes a little bit wrong but they look good enough so that I keep them. But it's interesting how they look. Let's just keep it at that. The wagon I actually really like because, especially in Kayan Al-Bashar, all the trees are sort of this greenish color. All of the buildings are sort of this brownish color. And then sometimes some buildings do have a little bit more color. But right now the biggest like pops of color are actually these wagons. So especially the roofs of these wagons, which is the reason why I made the roofs separate from the rest of the wagon, just so that it's easier to recolor them. But most of these wagons are really colorful. Actually, I have dimmed them down a little bit from Kayan Al-Bashar, because in real life they are also really colorful. And I really like that, actually. Sometimes though it looks a little bit like the color was just there so that it's a little bit outrageous, but let's just say I love the wagons. Let's keep it at that. just, and I don't want to say interesting because that's not the best word to describe them with, but I just really love that they just add that color that otherwise wouldn't be really found in Kayan Al-Bashar. But now let's move on from the wagon so that I don't humiliate myself any further. But we are building the Roman Triumphal Arch or Triumphal Arch, whatever you call it, but this was basically just like, I wanted to have that. Well, in Assassin's Creed, the original, you have these sort of weird Roman-looking gateways in, I think it's the Kingdom area. Yeah, I have not really played the game too much because I was too busy building in Isla La Pacifica. But let's just say I wanted to have those first. Then I just thought like, no, if I'm going to go all out, let's go all out and build the complete arch. So this is actually modeled after, I think, Constantine's Arch, so it's going to have 3 gateways and is going to be a little bit of a throwback to Thriumphal, because I think in the 3rd episode or the 2nd episode I built, well, I want to call it the Roman Triumphal Arch, but no, it wasn't. It was basically just, I have no idea what it was. It wasn't even mostly marble. It was just a weird thing. Let's just keep it at that. So it was kind of a redemption episode for me, or at least a redemption build of like, yes, I can actually build a Roman Triumph or Triumphal Arch. And I actually really like it, also because, well, Mashav Castle is basically like the entrance into the Mirage Mountains. So I needed to have something on the other side of the Mirage Mountains, going into the palace area, or going into the Mirage Mountains from the palace area, that was not, let's say, worse than Mashav Castle. Of course, Mashav Castle is probably not going to be outshone by just one Triumph Arch, but it's close. Also, you can actually see this from the village. I've made that lookout point there, which you probably might see in the after video tour, but I made that lookout there and didn't really think like, oh yeah, it's going to look out on the palace, but it actually also looks out on this Triumph Arch. So works out great actually. Yeah, also, the entire forest is also in that view, which makes it, I think, even more of like a scenic lookout point. If only we had something that the guests would come to without like hiding away an exhibit or something. Would be awesome if the guests just walk into the village, go to that lookout point just to, well, probably nowadays take pictures and selfies and everything. Yeah, let's just say today it would just probably be just a selfie place. But back to the actual build. So, as I said, it's modeled after Constantine's Arch. Actually, it's not a complete like just copy, because I did change some things, but well, we don't really have a lot of, well, we have a lot of like murals, but they are all like animal themed, and yeah, nothing on a Roman Triumph Arch, well, mostly nothing is animal themed. So also there would be like statues on here. I'm still sad that we don't have any human statues, I would say, which, I mean, it would make sense if we had any like human statues, because I mean, it would make sense that like a large donator or like a long-time zoo director or anyone who was really long-term invested in the zoo would probably get like some kind of recognition in the zoo, which could be a habitat named after them, which I don't really like. Because, yeah, I'm just going to make a case here for, I want statues. I want human-like statues, because, well, I don't want Blanco Peep statues. That's basically it. But I want just human statues. Also, yes, the flying boat actually makes a comeback here. So, yeah, that's a little bit also of a throwback. So, this episode is all over the place, and is a throwback to a lot of different things that I have built before, which might show you guys that, yes, I had no idea what I wanted to build for this episode. I mean, I think I already said that the forest was a little bit of an afterthought. The animals were completely out of the picture. And I basically just go around just building up the forest. We do build a waterfall later on. And I actually, for the first time, used those, I think they're called marula or marula. Yeah, I only remember the Sudanese incense tree for some reason. I don't even remember the real name of those pink trees that I used a lot, which we might start using again because we're going into that height or that elevation where those were very prevalent in Kayan Al-Bashar. But yeah, I use those trees usually for just bushes, or at least, well, I'm talking about the marula trees, but I mostly use them for bushes. But I actually started using them as trees here because I wanted a little bit of variation in the trees, because only using these Sudanese incense trees would look a little bit weird, which is kind of ironic because later on I do this off screen, which you will see in the after video tour. But I actually remove all those marula or whatever those trees are called that I usually use for bushes. I remove all of them because I hate them, or not hate them, but I just don't like them really as trees. I like them as bushes. But I actually built like cedar trees or Lebanese cedar trees, and ironically they're made out of Sudanese incense trees. So yeah, that's I think I really love the Sudanese incense trees for some reason. Well, actually I can name the reason, because I don't like it when my trees are basically just a ball of, well, or a circle, or, well, just a ball of just leaves. I don't like it when there's almost no real, like, how can I say that correctly? But I don't like it when there is basically no definition in the trees, or at least in all the leaves. With the Sudanese incense trees, there aren't that many leaves that it makes it just look like a stick with a ball with leaves on top. So that's mostly the reason why I'm very specific with the trees I want to use. Mostly just not that many leaves on them, just because I don't like it when it looks just like a stick with a ball of leaves on top. But also back to what we're actually right now building, so you will see those, well, attempts at making Lebanese cedar trees. I almost wanted to say separate trees, but you will see those in the after video view. So again, we're back with a waterfall. Actually, this waterfall stems from one of the floating islands basically crashing down into the forest, because I just like that idea that sometimes the islands either collide with each other or just fall down. So maybe that island, well, actually there's no one living on there, so no one could have angered the jinn. Maybe they just had fun. I don't know. Yes, I do think the jinn of like the temple are actually keeping Kayan Al-Bashar aloft, or they are, well, basically manipulating everyone into thinking they do. Yeah, there's a lot of stories you can make on Kayan Al-Bashar. I'm basically just building like the backdrop of a book, or at least that's how I think about it. You could also just say I'm making an RPG backdrop. Whatever you want to say about it, I just like having stories. Yeah, that's basically everything that we do for today. I'm back to building the forest, where the flowers that are basically the base of Kayan Al-Bashar, but I, as always, only remember the name of the Sudanese incense trees, which really no idea why that name stuck and not that name of the pink trees. So I should probably just say again that the question for today is basically, what phase do you most want to see next? That was really proper grammar. I know I'm the best at grammar, but what phase do you really like to see next? Either the Palace District or rebuilding the Traders District. Of course, I'm the person with the last say, but I would love to hear your opinions on what you really want to see, because we have basically touched the palace in the first episodes of Kayan Al-Bashar, and we have completely built the Traders District, although I'm going to basically just throw away every idea that I had for the Traders District, or at least for the old version. So yes, there's not going to be a giant station. I want to actually a little bit implement a little bit of a Roman Forum style with it, or at least some Roman ruins. So yeah, that's going to be it. We are now going to move on to the after video tour because we have finished with the speed build. There's a lot of things that I need to show you guys that I didn't build on screen. Mostly it's the forest, but I didn't build it in its entirety on screen because that would have taken a long time, so I just showed you guys the base of. But the one thing that I should explain that isn't in the speed build is this floating island bridge, which of course has a waterfall. But the main reason why it wasn't in the speed build is because I forgot to record it. In my defense though, it was early in the morning when I built this, so yeah, I just forgot to record it. But besides the floating island bridge, which actually is still a little bit of a work in progress, there's going to be probably 2 more waterfalls and a lot more plants and rocks. But besides that, we of course have the Roman Arch or Triumphal Arch. We have the Gypsy wagon camp, which you can barely make out of the trees there. But then we also have the cedar trees, which I quickly mentioned in the speed build, which are replacing all of the marula trees. But they are based on the Lebanese cedar trees, which is a very loose base on because they don't look much like the real life one. But I had I had 2 variations actually of these trees. One with the Sudanese incense tree as the leaves. The other one was that, just the standard savanna trees. I think you can already just imagine what kind of tree that was. But let's just say the Sudanese incense trees fit in with the rest of Kayan Al-Bashar because they have that brownish undertone. Those savanna trees, I think they're called the Asia or Asia trees. They basically have a more bluish undertone, so they would stick out like a sore thumb. So here I went with looks over realism, which, I mean, Kayan Al-Bashar floats. There's not much realism there. So we should get going with the actual tour instead of just standing around here. So today is a little bit more of a throwback because as you can see, besides the 4 variation of the Lebanese cedar trees, but the floating ships make a return from the old version of Kayan Al-Bashar. We also, we have a tiny one of them there. We have a look on Karshanik village from here. And this is the entrance to the Mirage Mountains from the palace. So it makes sense that it's a little bit more structured. I think it's also one of the best views of this entire build. Just because these lines just lead directly into this sort of center of the arch. So I just love this view. But going up there, we should be going immediately to our left for the Gypsy wagon camp, which is this small little ramp going up into it. And you can also see in the back just the road going up into the Mirage Mountains, which is the primary reason that this entire build was built. But this is also a little bit, I think, if I get out of plans, a little bit of a work in progress. There's going to be a lot more added here besides just this nice little campfire, which is basically built of that. I think it's the African fire thingy and then the Arctic wall scones or just torches. But it's still a little bit of a work in progress. I do love all the Gypsy wagons. They just bring a little bit more of life to this place, also just with the colors and such. But now going into the forest properly, again another look at basically the mountain road with a lot more of those Lebanese cedar trees, which they make sense for the forest of Kayan Al-Bashar, because Kayan Al-Bashar I just see as like a very luxurious place, and the Lebanese cedar trees, or maybe cedar trees in general, just are very expensive, or they were. I don't know if they still are, but they were one of like the most prized wood sorts in at least medieval / Renaissance times. Yeah, the forest with just the sun coming through the leaves. But that's basically the entire reason why I really wanted them, just because they just give off that air of like luxury. Because I think they're protected right now in Lebanon itself, because they were just so prized that they were just constantly cut down, I think. Don't take any of what I say as like truth, just, you know, do your own research as well. But yeah, we have one of the Nyala here. Oh, and I don't know if that's an adult or a baby. I heard a lot of like those birthing notifications or birth notifications. So yeah, they might have swarmed this entire habitat, which I'm not mad of because it's a big habitat. And we have a baby one, so yeah, probably the Nyala just completely took over this. So we should probably just move on, but oh, I really just like these animals for some reason. I don't know what he is doing. He's scratching the ground there. They really, for some reason, like this rock bridge. I don't know why, there's nothing on here. They also make weird sounds, which you probably won't hear because I'm going to put different music over this. But they make weird sounds. The waterfall, which, I mean, every habitat from now on is, I think, going to have a waterfall of some kind. One of the toys, because I want them to come over here, but as I said before, they just want that rock bridge. Well, you can't see it from here, but this is basically the crashed floating island. So that's why all the trees, actually, if you look at it, they all stand at an angle. Because even though like shrubs and such, they will more easily just move towards the sun so that they are straight up. The trees, not so much. So you really see it when you look this way, and then all of this, just straight forward. Well, and this tree is probably just caught in just the rocks here, so it basically was broken. Also, one of the gypsy wagons in the actual habitat. Here you can see just how giant the gypsy wagon is. Although that is a baby Nyala, so I'm probably butchering that name, by the way. But here you can just see how giant it is. But that's actually most of the actual habitat. We already went down there. There's not much to the left side of the habitat. I mean, I can show you guys very quickly. Yeah, it's just a lot. Well, oh yeah, I forgot that for Tagit Gem the rocks don't have any, well, just any kind of, well, we just go through it. I forgot the word for it, so we're just going with that. But quickly, just as the ending view, because this is just completely off screen. But this is the way into the Mirage Mountain, so it's a little bit of a winding pass. When a lot more of those cedar trees, you will find them a lot more because I'm going to use them a lot more. So yeah, you have the temple there. And then this is the view that you get from the Mirage Mountains into the Sultan's or Nyalas forest. So far so good, I think. Also yes, this is I think the only place you can really see this flying ship, because it's hidden behind the arch. But that's it for today's video. Again, if you guys want to see the Palace District or the, let's just say, Traders District rebuilt first, please put your opinions down below. Of course, I'm going to make the final decision. I'm just going to zoom in on that flying ship. I want to say floating again. But please put down your opinions down below. I'm of course going to make the final decision, but I would love to hear your reasoning behind what you want to see first. But anyway, as I said, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, don't forget to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more. So anyway, I hope you all have a lovely day. Bye bye.